Hear me out, everybody. The Last of Us Part 1 is perfect. And I really mean that. I mean, this is coming from someone who, at the time, was kind of done with the zombie genre when this first came out. And it was quite a unique experience actually playing this game because I was not excited for it. None of the gameplay really did anything for me. It just seemed like another zombie game coming from Naughty Dog, which is a thing because I love Naughty Dog. I love Crash Bandicoot. I loved and still love to this day Jak and Daxter, which I'm still currently going through right now, just started those over again. And of course, I loved the Uncharted series. I loved each and every one of them. So when they announced this Last of Us game, I kind of went, kind of done with the zombie genre, and I didn't pay much attention to it until the reviews came out. And I remember back in this year, I saw all the reviews coming out, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10, all these high-rated reviews. I said, okay, I gotta get this game. And it seemingly came out, bought it the first day, and I beat it in 2 days, pretty much in one sit-through. I barely got up, maybe to eat and go to the bathroom. And The Last of Us since then on has become my favorite game of all time, making Last of Us Part 2 my most anticipated game probably ever. I mean, the second they announced it, I flipped out and freaked out, but I was hoping for something very different. Now, of course, just so everyone understands, there will be no spoilers for Part 2. I know many leaks have come out about it. I can't control the comment section. Do be worried about the comment section. I've already been spoiled, so I already know what's going to happen. And I'm still pretty interested to play the game, but you do not be worried. You are safe here as well. When it comes to Part 1, though, there might be some spoilers here and there for some genuine, subtle moments. But if you've never played The Last of Us game, you definitely should, because like I've said, it's a perfect game. The Last of Us, when people look at it, people think, is this just another zombie game? But it wasn't. The thing about this is that this was a real spin on the zombie genre, and in reality, this is something that I look at and I could say, hey, this could probably even happen in our world. The thing that's most important about The Last of Us really comes down to the characters. Probably two of the best written characters ever known to man. That, for sure, is Ellie and Joel. Joel, it opens up with a gut-wrenching opening, one that puts you in tears within the first 15 minutes. And you fully understand and care for this guy right away. And as a person, you followed this arc with him kind of as his whole world's destroyed straight in one night. You follow this arc of a man who's just broken, and him maybe just needing a friend, a companion in this world, and inserts Ellie, an unlikely companion to him, who takes him on this journey that he does not want to go on. But he's thrust into it with this character who he ends up loving and falling in love with. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, is this just his daughter? Is it kind of a replacement for his daughter? But it's not. It's more of a friendship that I like to look at. One that, again, is unlikely to him, and one that he never thought would ever happen again, and ever really come to care about someone like that. He was such a hard shell person, even especially with Tess. But we see that with Ellie. And the perfection around that character arc for both these characters kind of figuring out where they're going to go. Going to Ellie, she's one of the characters that grew up in this world, knowing nothing different but just as what is given to her. And again, that companionship between Joel and Ellie is straight up the backbone, the heart, the soul of this entire game. That's what the most important thing is about The Last of Us. It's not the zombies, it's not the clickers, it's not the infection, it's not even just the world. It's the humanity built between these two characters, and these two characters alone that represent so much of what the first part is, while at the same time introducing this very unique and real spin on the zombie genre. And, I mean, I can't talk about these two characters without talking about the performances. Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson are phenomenal as Joel and Ellie, and they really, I mean, if the Oscars could nominate a video game, I think The Last of Us would, and I know that show's coming out, whoever they get to cast those to, I mean, if that show is not good, I have no idea how it is not, because they have everything placed right in front of them. You just gotta turn it into a live action, and I'm actually pretty excited for that on an off note. That's just one of the reasons to why The Last of Us is perfect. It's not just because of the characters, but it's because of the story, the masterpiece and crafting of cinema that brings you in and thrusts you into this storytelling that is unlike any other video game I had played even at the time. And while many video games have kind of tried to tinker with this, I think many have failed in that department because they haven't been able to hit that crux, that emotion yet. The Last of Us is one of the few games that has actually thrust me into here, and again, from the opening sequence, you definitely know that no one is safe, nothing is safe, and very much everything is unexpected to what could happen inside this world. And the storytelling in here, and the way that it builds upon the characters, the way that it builds upon the story and where they must go in this, in a sense, a road trip video game, again, the pacing to it all is just genuine. It feels perfected. It feels like you were really living with these characters. The way that it develops this world and everything surrounding them is one of the most subtle things about this game. Talking about subtle and genuine moments, that is one of the things that, again, ties into the backbone, the heart and soul with these two characters. Some of the experiences they have, some of the smaller Easter egg-ish kind of conversations that they have with one another about certain environment stuff that Ellie sees and Joel tries to talk about her with. But one of the most genuine moments, and probably top 10 favorite moments in any video game of all time, is the giraffe moment in The Last of Us. It's beautiful. It's perfection. It's one of the most heart-warming segments in the whole entire game, and that's what's so beautiful about this game, is that the tone feels like it's never clashing. It always feels like it's an intense thriller, but it knows when it needs to take its time and tell the story and take its time with these characters. That giraffe moment is just one of the far and few moments in between that really just show to how this world is opening up. One of the best things about this game that brings this melancholy feel to it is Gustavo Santaolallos's score. Now, I'm sorry if I butchered that name. I'm terrible with names. If you're new to this channel, you probably don't know that, but I'm terrible with names. But his score is one of my favorites of all time. It infects the whole entire runtime of The Last of Us. It's the feeling of a couple notes going back and forth, but it all fits inside. Every single moment just feels tinkered to that specific note, and it really feels like it's just coming to life out of the screen. It's an intense, engaging environment with, say, mercenaries, looters, or in general clickers. It's all tied together in such a synchronized way. Maybe it's even a couple moments in between, just some heartfelt stuff between Joel and Ellie. It still ties in perfectly. Technically, I mean, my god, the sound is incredible as well. The eeriness with every freak and loud scream from a clicker clicking, everything adds to the tension and the hauntingness of this world. And at the time when The Last of Us was coming out, this was a big change for me because I was very much heavy on multiplayer games. I always loved story games, but multiplayer games were my main go-to at the time. And once this game had come out, my shift had really shifted more towards story. I love a good story, and it's been a while since a game like The Last of Us had blown me away and taken me back and said, hey, listen to us. This is an excellent story. Well, honestly, maybe the latest games to kind of do that for me were Spider-Man for the PS4 and God of War 4. I did mention online, and while I've really praised everything else about The Last of Us and just in general why The Last of Us is perfect, the online ties into this. And I cannot express this enough of what a big surprise this was, and I really was disappointed to hear that it's not going to be in part 2. I really wish it was going to be, but hey, I understand it. It happens. Things happen. They didn't want to put it in. Maybe eventually, but I think the online was one of the most unique things about the first part for The Last of Us. And the way that it just tied in all the gameplay elements, and really the gameplay is superb in this game already. The way that you have to craft, the way that you have to build, the upgrading scenarios, the way that you actually have to think of, should I use my shiv for this to get into a door? Should I kill a clicker with it and save it? It's all about those surroundings, and the online really prepares you for those later difficulties in The Last of Us, because I've played this game every difficulty twice at least through New Game Plus as well, and that grounded difficulty, my god, is very tough. Side note, when I went through that game, I remember I went through grounded. I died 450 times, but I wanted to get straight back through it again and go beat it on New Game Plus, and I ended up doing it, and I only died 33 times. I felt really accomplished in that. But back to the online. The online, again, just prepares you for that. It feels intense. It brings the same atmosphere and the tension that the story did, while at the same time adding a nice little social feature that I don't think enough people supported or liked, that really had your friends from Facebook saying, hey, Zachary Pope shows up here in your camp. You want to make sure to survive the next game so you can get enough food for him to survive. It was a really creative way of making you feel like this was a real thing, and I think there was ways that they could have delved into that a little bit deeper. Maybe in the future they will. Of course, before I get to my final thoughts on why I think The Last of Us is perfect, guys, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy content like this on a daily basis. I love talking movies, I love talking games, I love being a geek, and I want to be a geek with you. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss out on content like this on a daily basis, as well as comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts. Are you guys excited for part 2? Have you ever played part 1? Let's discuss it all down there as well. Make sure to head on over to Sam Sean Films on how to see films early, and of course, just a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. Last of Us, once again, is a game that absolutely stunned me in every single way, shape, and form. It's a melancholy game that, in every unique capability, it really brings the world to life, and is one that I just couldn't get out of my mind when I stopped playing it. It's one that I continuously go back to. It's one that I recommend to every single person who has a PS3 or even a PS4. For sake, I kept my PS3 just to play this game until the remaster came out, and the remaster was just as good as the original. This game still holds up to today, and it's still my favorite game of all time. And part 2 is just around the corner, which is the reason I'm making this video. One of my first videos I ever made on this channel was a review for the remaster, and I hated it so much, and it's unlisted now. I don't want people to watch it. Maybe one day I'll show it to the world, but this was my way of re-updating my review and my thoughts of going through The Last of Us and providing a video essay for why The Last of Us is perfect. And I'm debating on doing a follow-up, because I have a rant on people getting mad about part 2 and all the leaks coming out about it. Obviously, I want to detail into the spoilers, but more in general, just my thoughts in general on how we should really take our time, play the game, and if our feelings still feel the same, then you're totally fair for it. But I'm still excited for part 2. Part 1 is my favorite game of all time, and while I still know the spoilers for part 2, I'm still excited to see where they take these characters, and in general, see what happens with everyone around the clock. It is a very interesting time. I love video games. I cannot wait to play part 2, and right now, I cannot wait to go back through part 1 after talking about it. Guys, thank you guys again so much for clicking on this. You guys are seriously all the best. Thank you for hearing me out on why The Last of Us is perfect.